Get voiced, get moist. Welcome to Moist Visions Inc. with your host, The Moist, on a surprise Wednesday hump day version of the Friday / Sunday Moisture Mash Moist Cast. Joining me tonight on this fine Wednesday evening is the one, the only, the man with a lot of wiener dogs. It's the superfan, Adam Shawhan, if he hasn't frozen yet.
Nope, I have not frozen. Thank you, Master Moist, for allowing me to jump on here. We have lots and lots of moisture happening here. Nothing like a little negative 35 degrees. But, you know, what you going to do other than stay inside, stay warm, drink plenty of water, and harass the only man I know that can get everybody pregnant just by winking, the sexiest man in the Phantom Menace, of course, Lethal Lightning.
Aha, and I do see Lethal Lightning is in the chat. Negative 35, absolutely. Celsius conversions for you Aussies down under, I am not sure. Lethal, if you'd like to join, Adam, would you like to, you can go ahead and send him a link there.
I sure will.
Yeah, get him in here. It'd be great to have him in here. Maybe he will bring you a little bit of warmth. I can tell you here in Northern Virginia, outside of Washington, D.C., the temperature is in the teens. Wind chill is down around 0 degrees Fahrenheit. Oh, he's at work, unfortunately, so we will keep you busy as you work and lurk. We'll just kind of talk your ear off, hopefully. And as Adam and I were talking before we went live, this week is a pretty rough week for myself. I've had 2 losses that are close to me. One in particular, or one of my best friends lost one of his siblings to a drunk driver, and on Monday I lost a mentor and a teacher to a drunk driver as well in a separate accident. And that teacher and mentor that I had really, put me on the history track that I have been on, and I studied history in college. Really thanks to him, and I'm eternally grateful. And Saturday I will pay my respects as best as I can, as long as I can keep it together when I do. And I said to Adam, hey, it was my history teacher, and I would love to talk maybe some war movies and some history documentaries or things like that, in a bit of his honor. And my message to everybody here listening now and in the future is, do not drink and drive. Please don't. You're going to cause harm to yourself, to a family, to your family, and to a community. So please do not drink and drive. I'm going through, 2 instances of it right now, and it is an absolute mess. Part of this right now is honestly a therapy session of me being on here, because I love all you guys, and Lethal especially. Thanks for tuning in, bud. I love you guys, and you guys are like a second family. Even though I may not have met you physically, virtually, I know you guys very well, and just talking to you guys makes me feel better. But just please, within the Phantom Menace, within this great fan community, I don't want any of this to happen to you guys or to your friends or family. So just reinforcing the message, don't drink and drive. But aside from that important note, let's talk some war movies and war documentaries. So, Adam, what is your favorite war movie?
Well, let's see. War movies.
Start with your favorite one. Let's say start with a one that you would absolutely, like, if it was on, you would not turn it off, and then we'll go into like your other favorite ones. So,
well, let's start with you since you bounced this on me. If you want to start, because I am so unprepared, which is normally a good thing, but you're asking me for names, and I don't want to let the Master Moist down, so I want to make sure I get the name of the movie right.
All right, so I will go.
It's not working because of the cold, so.
So, all right. Well, actually, we'll let Lethal in the chat here lead off, and he says, "Apocalypse Now." Apocalypse Now is just outside of my top war movies, but it is in my top selections. That if it is on, I will absolutely watch that film. It's a great movie. My all-time favorite war movie, and I'll give you my first and second. My first one is Gettysburg. I know it's not the most craziest one or bloody or whatever. Gettysburg, that movie, after I went to a reenactment as a little third grader, that I saw the movie and I really got into history. I got into the Civil War. That really pushed me into the career path that I follow. And I now live, a mile from the Manassas National Battlefield Park, to the home and site of two major Civil War battles. So that is my number one. It's more of a personal thing. Number two for me is going to be Saving Private Ryan. That movie especially the D-Day scene, puts the horrors of war, right in your face. And I feel that more war movies should do that. And we can talk about that film for hours. But my third film, and it's going to agree with Lethal Lightning here, for his number two is Platoon. Platoon is, Platoon and Full Metal Jacket are kind of tied for me. It's hard to choose between the two. There's a mix of realism, the drama, the realism. I feel like those movies perfectly balance it. And Lethal also said Letters from Iwo Jima. Yes, absolutely. And Flags of Our Fathers, Letters from Iwo Jima. I believe that one focuses on the Japanese side of the conflict, and then Flags of Our Fathers focuses on the U.S. side. And Flags of Our Fathers, in particular, focuses on the flag raising photograph on Mount Suribachi. Unfortunately, over half of the people that are in the flag raising photograph perished on Iwo Jima. We Were Soldiers, absolutely a great movie. Hacksaw Ridge, another that's one we can talk about here. But so Adam, hopefully you just had a lot of movies thrown at you there.
Oh yeah. Full Metal Jacket, number one. Number two was Platoon. Three is not a war movie, but Air America. Just because my dad was in the Vietnam War, my grandfather was in World War II, great grandfather World War I. So I also like Band of Brothers and Platoon, even though they weren't movies, they still, basically documentaries, as you said, for our vets and whatnot. Thank you, Lethal, for listing off all the good movies that my brain wasn't thinking. I guess the warmth does help. Yes, Hamburger Hill, that was another one. So
Hamburger Hill. There are so many good war movies, and I think honestly, what I want to do here on this channel is having a war movie watch party. I don't want to say watch party, but watch along, I guess, for a war movie, and maybe do Saving Private Ryan or something.
Saving Private Ryan was very good, and John Wayne had a lot. The Longest Day. There's been a lot of good movies. Green Beret. Some of the younger viewers might not know a lot of these, but once again.
But here's the thing. Here's what I wish, what you just said right there. The most recent war movie that I can recall is Dunkirk and Hacksaw Ridge. But most widely marketed would be Dunkirk. And, that story in itself is a story of tragedy and heroism, with the British being able to get off before the Wehrmacht was able to capture them, essentially, in World War II. But what I really wish for this generation in particular, since we can say that, I agree that we're seeing the pussification of America and of a lot of the world, is putting on the screen a war film that hides nothing. And I'd prefer it to be a World War II film, to be honest, if I had to choose one. Even though I'm a diehard Civil War, U.S. Civil War fan. Civil War would be second, I'd want. But I would love for just a World War II film, maybe about the Battle of the Bulge, or even with the Russian front on them taking Berlin and tearing down the Third Reich. I want a film that shows the absolute blood, guts, and gore, and I want nothing censored. I want it all to just be true, to show as much as they can, CGI, props, whatever, to show how awful it is, to give people a fucking sense. You know, we're at a time in our country right now that, you know, the partisanship, fucking, like, this is like before the Civil War partisan level shit. I want people to realize how bad stuff can get and how bad it has been, and to respect what has happened and what people and what your grandfathers and what their grandfathers may have went through. It's just, I feel like war movies and war documentaries, people see them, they're like, oh my gosh, that's so terrible. How could it happen? It could happen tomorrow, motherfucker. It could happen tomorrow.
We're a world at war, man. Think about it. They don't see it. We're a world at war.
And the thing is, we have a recent experience. We have a recent example with American Sniper, with Bradley Cooper portraying Chris Kyle, and you know, people were just like, "Oh, that's horrifying." No, that's war. People were just like, "It's war." It's like, what was Chris Kyle's job? It was to protect the Marines that he was assigned to protect as a Navy SEAL. And I can tell you that I am friends with a Marine that was covered by Chris Kyle in Fallujah. And he said when they knew Chris Kyle was on there, was covering them, he's like, we knew we could take on the world because it was him, because it was Chris Kyle. But when you see that, and when you learn more about people portray them, and we do this with we do this with, you know, foreign adversaries as well. We portray them as just, you know, they're just these you know, stick figure people that just kill and kill and kill. No, they have a backstory, and you know, it's eaten in their insides as well. You know, one of the first scenes you see in the movie of Chris Kyle is he's facing the choice of whether he has to shoot a child and a mother, and they were concealing an IED. You know, does he not shoot them and let, you know, other soldiers that he might know and his friends die, or does he shoot them and save lives? And you know, it's a side of, you know, I feel like the movies now need to portray that side of choice that people have whenever they go into war. And you know, obviously, if it's going to be a movie about Chris Kyle, we're going to be talking about Americans here, American lives, the British lives, and everything. But you know, also I feel like movies like that can portray that, you know, the Iraqis. There was plenty of Iraqis that were allied with us. There were plenty that weren't. You know, it's a choice, and I feel like a lot of society today is desensitized to the horrors of actual war. They see just, and what we see today is only really truly just insurgencies. Insurgencies, you know, dictatorial governments as in Syria, you know, massacring their own people. We're not seeing the state-to-state fighting that we saw early in the 20th century. So I feel like people, you know, it's easy to portray the good guy and the bad guy, whether you want to spin it politically or not, and it will be spun politically. But back then, you know, when you're portraying and you're showing films, especially from the early 20th century of World War II and World War I, you're seeing, and you can show a lot more. There's a lot more to being a good guy and a bad guy. And you can see where it stems from. Why are some countries seen as the good guys, and why are some as the bad guys?
Certain point of view, man. Certain point. Yeah. Obi-Wan said it best. Certain point of view. And unfortunately for us, in the days that we have, they act surprised when heathenish people do heathenish shit. They can't believe they do it, but yet that's how they were raised and what they do. But they don't understand that not every person from the Middle East is a fucking terrorist. They're not. There are some that are. There are very many that want us all dead, but there are also those that fought along our side and help us to get through what we got through. We've had that in every war, in every country we fought with, because they're tired of being oppressed against. They're tired. They want to be able. A prime example is a gay man in the Middle East who is executed for being gay. I don't necessarily think that they all need to be brought here, but they shouldn't be killed just because of their sexual preference. We've got enough stuff that needs to be taken care of here in our own homes before we worry about others. But that doesn't mean we can't help. But we're also not the world police. But you can't just sit there and do absolutely nothing and whine and cry and think everything's going to be okay because you're a Mary Sue and you're a feminist and you just think that all men are evil. Well, there's some evil women. Just look at Hillary Clinton. And the list goes on. But yeah, they don't seem to understand anymore what a soldier goes through. When he's given orders, he follows those orders. Is he a good guy or a bad guy for making that decision? The Chris Kyle thing. What do I do? Do I do what I need to do and take out this kid and do what I'm ordered to do? And subconsciously you have a child at home that you're thinking of while you're doing this. This is the true things that bring on what is now known as PTSD.
And I think that's, what you just said there. I feel like more of that needs to be portrayed in war films. Because, and I feel like, too, a society, like with Marines and whatnot, you're just like, oh, they go out, they kill, and they come back, and they're totally fine. You see them portrayed in certain films. It's like, oh, they go out, they kick ass, and then they come home completely fine. They get the hot girlfriend, they get the hot wife, they live happily ever after. But realistically, what's going on? You're a human being, and that's one thing I love about Saving Private Ryan. You look at the characters in that film, and they are portrayed as humans. And a lot of them, they're badass, they're kick-ass, that they're just like, you would believe that they wouldn't hold anything back. They don't care. All they want to do is kill. And that film portrays them as actual humans that, towards the end of the film, I know really it focuses on Private Ryan and Tom Hanks's character, but you see the impact that it has. And I wish more war films would do that. And I'll say another example here after a second. If you have anything to say, Adam.
Fury was awesome.
Yeah. Fury is, yeah.
I told you, man, I'm sorry. It's like I know the movies and I could tell you what it is and we could figure it out without just sounding back to you. Stupid.
Fury, I do enjoy Fury. Completely fictional tale, but I do enjoy it. And I do feel like that one does a good job of showing the horrors of it.
Yeah, that's going off what you were saying. Yeah, it's fictional, but yeah, it showed,
it showed it showed the civilian side.
Yeah, too. It did. It showed both sides. It showed some horror, and just imagine being in their shoes. Like a movie, what it's supposed to do, take you out of your realm, your reality, and give you good entertainment, but you can also sit there and be in that tank and facing what was coming at you and go, what the fuck would I actually do? I don't see millennials doing that these days. They're too busy bitching that they're underpaid when they can't even flip a hamburger right at McDonald's.
Yeah.
Not all, but some most.
Yeah, I would say Mox Rocks in the chat said the first season of Homeland is kind of good, portraying of that. But given it's far-fetched. I actually have not watched Homeland yet. It's on my list of things to watch, but I will need to keep that in mind. And you also said that The Hurt Locker is a good film. Yeah, it's a good film. A bunch of my military friends and some people that I know that work within DoD make fun of it, but they also do say that it's just overall it's a good movie. But realism-wise, they kind of make fun of it. But they do agree, and I do agree that it's a good movie regardless. And the Big Red One, I know the Big Red One with the Call of Duty video game of the Big Red One. And I got to tell you what, that was a hard as hell game to beat. I think I beat it once, and that took ages for me to beat. But no, the Big Red one, I think they were doing something with a movie or something about it. I think they need. God, there's something recent coming out with the Big Red one that I saw. Morox, if you know what Big Red had Mark Hamill. Okay, I might be thinking of a different thing then. I'll have to look that up. I will have to look that up. Big Red one with Mark Hamill. I will have to look this up. But no, what I wanted to say was with like what you said about PTSD and stuff. Have you watched The Pacific?
I have, yes. Those were two of my favorite shows that, like I said, because you said, when we got into this. Yeah. So, yes, I've seen it. Those were some of my favorite, The Pacific and Band of Brothers both.
I think honestly, when you look at it, The Pacific is, and we'll go into probably the most horrifying scene of Band of Brothers here in a little bit. The Pacific, I feel like in combat wise, I feel like the Pacific did a better job showing the horrors of combat. Especially whenever there's the episode, I think it's like episode 6 or 7, whenever the guy that played Freddie Mercury in Bohemian Rhapsody that just came out. I can't remember his name.
I can't either.
I gotta look it up here. Hang on. All right, we're gonna look it up here, and Rami Malek. So Rami Malek, he was that guy that was kind of just like, hey, welcome to Iwo Jima, welcome to whatever. He's like, we just kill Japs, that's all we do. And he was that kind of like badass guy, like so laid back. Nothing affected him. All he did was kill. And that's all he cared about. And there was that one scene where it was a Japanese gunner and his head was blown off, like the top part. And Rami Malek's character was sitting there throwing rocks into the guy's brain. And he didn't care. He didn't care one bit. But what I feel like that film did such a good job doing, and it's based on a true story, was that whenever they were in America, when they got home, and it was his train stop, and the redhead guy, who's the main character really of the Pacific, was sleeping, and Rami Malek's character just kind of, he gets up from his train, he gets up, grabs his bag, he just kind of looks back and he sees the rest of his squad mates that were still alive, that were, waiting to get off at their station. And he just kind of looks at them, and then he just he just walks away. He doesn't say anything. He just walks away. And whenever you watch the end credits, you find out that they had seen him at one reunion. And you find and that doesn't say anything about what happened with himself and with his own life, but you can see the impact that it had on him. Yes, he was this badass character, and he was this awesome guy, probably my favorite character in the whole Pacific series, just because he had no fucks to give.
Yeah.
And he was the badass, just like, this is war, basically. And you see that it had a toll on him. It's like in the moment, it didn't matter, but he came to terms with it. And it shows the human side of it. And I feel like the Pacific in particular does show that human side of it.
Well, I feel bad for a lot of the vets that now, how many vets did we have pre them knowing post-traumatic stress disorder?
Well, that's I studied the Civil War hardcore.
Yeah.
Following the Civil War, that's when it really started to be diagnosed, because people would just, they go into seizures, they go into shock just randomly. Because
they touched it on the Chris Kyle movie when they did that. They touched it without saying it.
Yeah.
And as when you're having education, which we both do, you see stuff a little bit differently than what some normal people would. but yeah, that was the main thing with if Red Dawn, the original Red Dawn, when that happened, that was the biggest thing that we were worried about back then.
Oh, yeah.
Was the Russians. So of course we had the movie, and that was a good movie for its time. The remake was all right. It was entertaining.
Yeah, you got Josh Peck fighting against the North Koreans.
Yeah, it was entertaining. No, I got on remakes.
For me, seeing, because when I grew up, Josh Peck was on Drake and Josh, the kids show.
Right.
So seeing Josh Peck running around with an M16 and AK-47 was just hilarious to me. But no, I did enjoy the film though.
But I mean, it was still a good movie, but I mean, that was really a fear which people don't seem to realize. It wasn't just back in the
it wasn't just invasion. I mean, hell, at that point, it was nuclear war.
Yeah,
it wasn't just that. Yeah.
I mean, shit, go back and watch the movie War Games.
Yeah.
Would you like to play a game of chess? So, I mean, it's just, old school Matthew Broderick. But still, I mean, it's just that stuff that, and like I said, you're one of my kids' age. So, it's fine. But the era that I come from, it's just we had a lot of actual real-life shit to be scared of. And you can't help, like I said, I come from a military family and a police family on top of that. So you can't help but understand the things, especially now that they're finding out that they didn't know back then, until they finally put a name on it and understood, especially with the post-traumatic stress. And then all of a sudden they realize that it's not just soldiers, that everyday people can have it as well. But it doesn't mean that the world's going to stop, unfortunately. And, there are different treatments for everything. Sometimes you just need a friend to talk to at, 10:30 at night. Sometimes you just got to get on and get something off your chest. But, entertainment needs to go back to being entertaining and quit being all the time political and hating us, and just say, hey, here's a good war movie. It's all we need.
And the thing is, not just a good war movie, but like a war movie that's true to what happened.
Yeah.
Or if it's not portraying an exact event particular, like maybe it's making up a battle like in Fury.
Yeah.
But like Fury, obviously, you can say that, oh, it's, it's so pro-American or whatever, blah, blah, okay, cool, whatever. But one thing that Fury did, that last battle, showed the absolute horror that the people in the Wehrmacht and the U.S. Army faced in tank warfare, and it showed the struggle of 4 Shermans going up against the freaking Tiger. Like a Tiger tank versus 4 Shermans, I'd throw money on the Tiger. I mean, the Germans, they were damn good at one. They were damn good at things, and that's engineering. And they had the best tanks in that war. But too bad they wasted their fucking money, and I'm glad that they did. And unfortunate for for the Third Reich that they wasted their money, and great for the rest of the world and for humanity that we didn't waste our money and we put our money into beating their asses. And I feel like that tank battle between that Tiger and those 4 Shermans, and what 1 Sherman made it out, that's pretty much true. A Tiger tank could take out Shermans. Shermans were mass produced like crazy. Wasn't like they were padded up and focused on every little detail like the Tigers and the Panzers were. But that's one thing about that movie. And then the end scene, where you have most of the tank crew. Spoiler alert: you have most of the tank crew killed, fending off SS holdouts, basically. And one thing about SS holdouts, they're going to fight to the death, and that is, they were the remaining, members of the Third Reich, long after the Wehrmacht and just regular Germans gave up, and we're just like, this isn't worth this. The SS, the Hitler Youth, they were indoctrinated. This is how we die. This is what we die for. And I feel like Fury did a good job showing the dedication of, not necessarily Hitler Youth, but the SS against, the Americans at this point invading Germany, trying to defeat this and end that war.
Well, and we could actually have entertainment back then without going to see it being called a racist, or oddly enough, a fucking Nazi.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I mean, you go and you watch a movie about, basically killing Nazis, killing Nazis.
Yes, literally killing the Nazis, but we're Nazis by today's standards.
Well, going off of that, let's lead into another film here that we kind of alluded to earlier, and I think the most impactful episode of Band of Brothers is Why We Fight. I think it's episode 8. Yeah, it's called Why We Fight. And it was when they liberated the concentration camp. I feel like that is by far the most impactful episode of Band of Brothers. Do you agree, or is there another episode that you might say that stands out?
No, I mean, overall, both series I think were great. Each one's got little bits and pieces that you like the most out of it. I like the fact that I think there was 10 episodes. Christ, it's been a while since I've watched it.
Yeah, both are 10 episodes.
Yeah, but there was so much put into each episode, and you had really good graphics and what things would look like where, all of a sudden you're digging a hole. Why am I digging a fucking hole? Oh, shit. Yeah, look at
you have mortar fire coming at you then.
Yeah. And all of a sudden you're either A, missing a leg, or B, all that's left of you is a leg, depending on what hits. But no, that was a very good episode as well. I just like both series. I can't really say there's a specific episode that I liked more than the last, because if I watch them, dude, I sit down and I just watch all 10. So it's 10 hours. Boom, I'm done from beginning to end.
Well, to go off of that here and kind of like how we got onto that, Morox in the chat says that Schindler's List, brutal. Yeah, not necessarily a war movie, but I'd throw it in with the war movie category just because of the time period that it takes place in. And we'll go back to the Why We Fight episode, because I feel like it's one of the most memorable out of Band of Brothers here. I feel like we can talk about it at length probably. But you've seen Schindler's List, right?
Yes, I have. Sorry, I had to have a little moisture.
No problem. But no, Schindler's List is, I feel like, it's a movie. It's hard to describe. It shows that there is, it shows the naivete of people, but then it also shows when people realize how bad things are getting and how people can find the inner good. Almost I hate to make the comparison, almost like a Star Wars kind of event, where what I will compare it to is whenever Oscar Schindler, the one part of that movie that has color is that little girl's red dress. And whenever Oscar Schindler's at the camp and he sees the red dress going to be cremated, I feel like that, for people that aren't familiar with the movie that might be watching this future, I hope you do watch this movie. Please watch Schindler's List. It's like 4 hours long, but screw it. It's 4 hours that need to be well spent watching that.
It's a good 4 hours of your time spent.
And you'll look at yourself, you'll reflect on society after you watch it. But, during that sequence, I feel like Oscar Schindler watching that red dress go into the flames is almost like watching Darth Vader watch Luke Skywalker being electrocuted by the Emperor. and he's saying, I need, like, and Darth Vader does something, and he's like, I need to do something about this. He kills the Emperor. And at that point, it's like Oscar Schindler at that moment in real life, was like, I need to do something about it. Whether it, and, it might not have been a red dress. That was might have been just for dramatic events or dramatic spectacle by Steven Spielberg, and probably most likely was. But he had that moment, and I feel like that's what and not that's what makes the OT so relatable with just historical events like this. Oscar Schindler had that moment where it's like, I need to do something about this. Yeah, I'm using these Jews as factory workers and blah blah. But no, he's like, no, I can save these people, and I want to save these people because they're people that matter. And the fact that he spent his fortune doing so, and now is buried in Israel, and is regarded by Israel as one of the greatest people to help that nation. He set aside his political affiliation, which was with the Nazis. He was a Nazi, and the fact that he was able to set that aside and say, no, I need to do something about this. Oscar Schindler, he's someone I feel like that needs to have more of a role and more of a highlight in the history textbooks and whatnot, especially nowadays. To be like, he set aside his political affiliation and said, no, this is wrong. I need to do something about this. I feel like he is a figure that needs to have more of a pronounced role. And the fact that, and what saddens me too, is just kind of the attention span that kids nowadays have. And they're going to see, they put in Schindler's List, or they see it on Netflix. It's on Netflix now, I'm pretty sure. They're going to see it, and they're like, oh my God, it's in black and white. It's like, no. There's a reason why it's in black and white, and it's for one scene, and it's the red dress scene. But that scene makes that whole fucking film. And the thing is, now that I hope a film with that much, impact on society, I hope kids nowadays, and I'm still a kid. I'm in my mid-20s. I hope kids my age can still watch that and be like, okay, there's a payoff here, and there's a reason why it's filmed like this, and there's a reason why it matters. And Riot Kitty, hello, welcome to our chat of World War II, really overall war films and war documentaries. We are kind of taking a little different route than we usually do, but right now we're talking about Schindler's List. So let us know if you watched Schindler's List and what you think of it. It's really one of the more heavy-hitting movies about the Holocaust. And then we're gonna in a short bit we're gonna go into Band of Brothers. But yeah, no. So Adam, do you have any more thoughts on Schindler's List, or just?
No, I think you covered it perfectly, young man. I don't think I need to say anything else. I think it's on Netflix. Sit your ass down, watch it.
I say so. Riot Kitty, I said never heard of it. I think I am almost certain it's on Netflix right now. Schindler's List, SCHINDLERS list. Schindler's List. You can even Google it. Oscar Schindler, OSKAR, Oscar Schindler. He was a member of the Nazi Party, but he ended up saving over 1,000 Jews during the Holocaust. In his factories, basically, he would hire them and prevent them from being shipped out to camps. And he's buried in Israel because of that. So I would highly recommend it. It's a Steven Spielberg film. And it is a young Liam Neeson that plays Oscar Schindler, and you will see Liam Neeson in a whole new light. I think Adam just threw the link in there for Schindler's List. But yeah, Riot
the
Kitty.
Google link in there to help.
Riot Kitty, definitely check that out. It is a 3.5 hour movie. how I am. Adam, I was going to go from similar book to Band of Brothers. And with Band of Brothers, I'm going to talk about the biggest. I would say the tumultuous episode of Band of Brothers, which is I feel it's episode 8. Yep, he's back.
Google just said screw you. Go ahead and use Google Hang. Share the Google link, and we're gonna throw you off.
yeah. Hey, I say right now. I'm going to the Band of Brothers here. So, and we had talked about this briefly a little bit earlier, and the episode. I think it's episode 8. Why We Fight, and that to me is the most pivotal episode of Band of Brothers. Because it puts the war. I mean, throughout the whole series, your HBO series, you're finding out why these soldiers are just like, oh, I'm just here. I'm here to beat the Germans. I'm here to blah blah. I'm here to beat all this or whatever. Get back, beat them quick. Get back to my homeland. Get back to my wife. Get back to my girlfriend. But I feel like when you see Why We Fight, that episode 8, that's when you see the true meaning of what's going on. And it also did a great job of showing that, the United States Army and the Marines did not understand completely what was happening with Nazi Germany and the Holocaust as a whole. Seeing them pull up to the concentration camp and just seeing the horror on the U.S. Army soldiers' faces, portrayed by the actors, is, I feel like it's something that's got to be, it's got to be almost true. I mean, I can tell you 2 years ago, I went to Auschwitz, Auschwitz I and Auschwitz-Birkenau, in Poland, in the town of Auschwitz, and even though I was there, I saw the Arbeit macht frei sign, work will set you free. I saw all the signs that said, if you run, basically vault, this will kill you if you touch the wire. I walked into a room that had the hair of 40,000 Polish women that were murdered at Auschwitz. I saw the destroyed crematoria, and 80 years later, it didn't seem real. It did not seem real that I was standing literally in a place that 1 million people were killed systematically. It just did not seem real. And I feel like Band of Brothers with Why We Fight did a great job showing how the soldiers may have felt when they came across these camps. And they even, the small ones, the big ones, Buchenwald, Treblinka, all of the ones, Auschwitz, there's so many of them. I feel like Why We Fight did such a great job showing the horror and the gratitude of those being saved, of the Jews and the minorities of Germany, essentially, of being saved by the Americans, or in a great sense, obviously the Soviets saved a lot of them. They're the ones that liberated Auschwitz. And it showed while they were being liberated, the American soldiers didn't understand what was going on. They were getting hugged and they didn't know why. And I feel like, it's honestly, it's an episode, it's hard to discuss. Like, I feel like, Adam, I feel like, I'm trying to go somewhere with it, but it's like, it's hard to discuss.
Well, it shows you the humanity and the inhumanity in the same episode, what they went through. Then they're being rescued. Then they're being forced to stay in because they're so, you can't overfeed them. You can't overwater them, because they've gone without for so long.
And I also feel like, too, that episode shows the anger that a lot of people probably had with the local populations.
Yeah.
whenever they walked in, and the one soldier pulls out his, they're at a bakery, and he's just like, we're taking all your bread to give to the people in the camps, and the baker's freaking out, and he pulls out his pistol and puts it at his neck, and he's like, tell me you didn't smell the fucking smell.
Yep.
And they did such a good job portraying that I'm sure that happened numerous times, and I'm sure it went beyond them just threatening to throw a pistol.
Oh man, considering that this was a HBO film, I would say it's kind of PG-13.
I'm sure it went beyond that, and and you saw it too in Band of Brothers, where it was times that they were capturing Nazis and they were just shooting them. They didn't care; they just shot them because of what happened. And I feel like we need more films like Band of Brothers, like The Pacific. I would love right now to have a World War I kind of Band of Brothers kind of thing coming out. I'd love something like that to come out to show the horrors of that war. Or
I would take Civil War just because of the fact they have destroyed so much of our history over a fucking flag that really, to me, is such bullshit. Because if you were from the South, that flag, that was what you were fighting for. Yeah, the South lost. That's fine. It's not all about fucking slavery, people. Hate to break it to you. There were more things on the table than just that. It's not that the people in the South were fucking racists. It's always
and like to go off of that, like what I always say, and like Civil War is what I've studied since third grade. Thanks to Mr. Altz, my teacher. What I always say is slavery was the rich man's game, and that's what started it. I would say. What really divided the country was the slavery issue. But who was it that owned the slaves? It was the rich men. So what makes it tragic is that it was the rich man's war. That you had people from the North and the South, your middle class, your lower class, that were fighting the rich man's war over slavery or over the expansion of slavery. What is it going to stay in the South? Is it going to expand into the West, or will we not let it go into the West, or will it just stay in the South? Out of that, thankfully, we had 4 million slaves freed. That's a great thing. We're not taking anything away from that. That's, I love it.
No, definitely not. But it's not the only factor. I'm so tired of hearing that it was, no, what? No, there was so much more to it.
But and it's kind of like what I said, like it was slavery. It was the political cause that got it going. But who was the ones that were arguing it? The rich men. It was the rich ones, the 1%ers making it like this is our. It's like we want this. This is how we make money. But what's the difference between a poor farmer in Texas and a poor farmer in Michigan? Nothing.
Yeah. Well, look at who were the cousins and the families that fought each other.
Who was the one bleeding and dying on the battlefield? It was those guys.
Oh, not the 1%ers, my friend.
No, they were the ones. They were behind the lines. They were in Washington. They were in Richmond. They were, they were far from the battlefields. They never faced it, and it was. I always call it the American tragedy, but the American tragedy in the sense of, like I said, it was the rich man's war, but tons of hope in that 4 million Americans and slaves and Americans, received their freedom, which is absolutely fantastic. And Hallmark Channel, Jeremy, a lot of abolitionists in the South, absolutely. There were definitely a lot of abolitionists. And there were a lot of Northerners who did not necessarily support abolition. If you look at a lot of Northern businessmen, particularly, they didn't want necessarily slaves to be free. because they didn't want them to move west. They wanted that western lands to be moved for. They wanted that western land to be open for white labor that they could exploit and that they could sell. And there are plenty of examples between northern commanders not supporting abolition, as well as southern commanders obviously not supporting abolition. And some instances of southern commanders not really giving two shits about what happens, and northern commanders. But and exactly what you brought up there, it shows, and what Adam said, the complexity of the conflict. It gets so simplified today. I live next to the Manassas National Battlefield Park, the home, where, not the home of, but the fields where 30,000 Americans north and south were killed and wounded. About a mile away, there are about 700 Confederates that are unknown buried, and there are exponentially, I don't know how many unknown Union buried around where I live. 2 of them were just found recently, about 3 miles from where I live. They were found where a field hospital was. So I feel like, the Civil War in today's climate is exponentially hard to portray, because you can portray it in one light and you'll just have 85% of the people watching it start bitching and moaning about something else, and then you'll portray it in one light and then other 85% will start bitching and moaning about the other thing. So it's like, one thing that I will always point to with Civil War media is the film Gods and Generals. And they not the Manassas battle, but when they show the second battle, which is Fredericksburg, which happened about it's about a 40-minute drive south of Manassas here. I'm not sure the miles wise, but there came a point in that battle where it was the Irish Brigade from the Army of the Potomac, and they came up against the 24th or 28th Georgia, and they were Irish. And it shows in the film they were Irish American, both sides, Irish American. But at that time, they saw themselves more as being Irish. So whenever the Confederates, they saw the Sons of Erin flag flying, coming at them, and they had the Sons of Erin flag on their side with the Confederate flag. It was, the heartbreaking where they're killing each other. They're Irish, and they're even they're discussing. They're like, "What are they doing fighting in blue?" or blah blah. It's like, it's like we're fighting. We're fighting against the English and things like that. Really, it's like, why are we doing this? And at one point, one of the captains breaks down and drops his pistol and just starts crying, and a bunch of them start crying, just like, oh my God, we're not fighting just Americans, but we're fighting Irish. And that was the case for a lot of ethnic groups during that war. Jews, I have a book that goes in through Jewish Federals and Jewish Confederates. And, that was, just heartbreaking seeing that. And then Native Americans that fought for the North and Native Americans that fought for the South. It truly was a war that, like I said, it's the American tragedy that ended up in a lot of great things. And a lot of not so great things. It ended up, we had the KKK that came out of it, but we had the freedom of 4 million slaves. So, but in tragedy, we had almost 700,000 Americans die over something that Washington bitched and moaned about and couldn't figure out on the House floor. And, that's something that I feel like that we need to keep in mind, that there's a reason why we have a government the way that it's set up. It's so that we can debate and fight about these issues in a civil manner that doesn't need to take it to civil war and split the country in two. And, I don't think that we're going towards civil war right now, to be honest, or anything. But I feel like there's a lot of lessons that our politicians can look at to be like, yo, we need to take a step back, and we need to see that there is room to compromise. We're not going to win everything we want right now, but there are ways on both sides that we can give in and reach a compromise that's going to, it might piss off the fringe right and fringe left, but we can at least make the 85% in the middle happy by respecting and trying to get as many voices as possible. Because, whether it's civil war or whatever, other, the Iraq war, even during the Bush administration, there are plenty of examples of being a partisan government throughout our history to look at and learn from. And there are plenty of examples of bipartisanship. Look at the Clinton administration, whenever Newt Gingrich and Bill Clinton were able to balance the budget, with a Republican House and a Democratic president. There are plenty of examples, I think, that we need to look at today, whether it be times of civil conflict, civil war, or extreme bipartisanship. And I feel like we need to learn from them and go with that. But, we're in such a polarized environment that I really don't have any hope for that. But let me check back in here with the chat with Hallmark, because I know he's saying some stuff here. Yes, it was the Republicans who freed the slaves. Just saying. Yes, no, you are absolutely correct. But if you do look at the political platforms going back to the 1860s and the 19th century, the Republicans were more of the radicals. They would be technically, by today's standard, they would be more of the Democratic Party, and the Republicans would be more of the Democratic Party, vice versa. But then you got your Copperheads and you got everything mixed in there. So, and you still got your Whigs still lingering around there. So, the 19th century politics is it's a freaking mess. I mean, you have so many parties that goes into that. And Hallmark said, yeah, I'd have been an abolitionist. Yeah, I believe that. Yeah, I feel like especially all of us right now would be abolitionists. I'd hope we don't be abolitionists if we were alive in the 19th century. Yeah, it might have been hard certain parts of the country, even in the North. But Bonnie, thanks for joining here. We're talking wars. We're talking war documentaries, war movies. So if you got any favorite war movies, favorite documentaries, drop them in the chat. We'll talk about them here. And any American Before Illegals, we're getting political, but vets for everybody. Yeah, vets. Plenty of great veterans organizations out there that need to be supported. And, they're the reason we're all here and we can all bitch and moan about the stuff that we're talking about right now. So I think that,
well, our good old Hallmark is a vet. So
yeah, I remember shouting him out before. So,
he's one of the vets. He'd be around my father's age. Fortunately, my father died because there was nobody helped. The VA did what little bit they could, but there wasn't a lot. So of course, my opinion might be a little bit different than others, but I still believe that that's just my belief. I take care of your backyard first, your own backyard. We got room for a lot of people, and that's fine, but you need to take care of your own first and foremost.
And I agree. I 100% agree. And what I'm gonna
all your fault, Hallmark.
Bonnie here on a lighter note, I asked Bonnie about what war documentaries and war movies. Bonnie says Star Wars. Yes, that is a but we can relate the OT to a lot of things. And Bonnie, I will just say it really quickly here. What I had said, if you've seen the movie Schindler's List, I compared Oskar Schindler realizing what the Nazi Party was doing when he went to one of the concentration camps and saw the murders going on. I compared that to him realizing what's going on to Darth Vader, seeing Luke Skywalker being electrocuted by the Emperor with the Sith lightning, and Vader realizing this is evil, this isn't right, and defeating the Emperor. And what did Oskar Schindler do? No, he personally didn't defeat the Third Reich, but he did everything he could to save as many Jews as possible from being murdered by the Third Reich in Nazi Germany. So I feel like that's a good comparison. I feel like a quick pop culture reference that we can give people that might not understand the full story of Schindler's List and Oskar Schindler. And that's one thing as a history tutor, when I was an undergrad, I always would pull in my go-tos were Harry Potter, Breaking Bad, Walking Dead, Game of Thrones, and Star Wars and Lord of the Rings. Whenever I was tutoring people, I'm like, so here's what, here's the situation, whether it's ancient history or modern contemporary. We're like, all right, so here's what we can compare this to. And then they'd be like, got it. I'll waste my midterm now. It's like, yeah, just make sure you write the right names. Don't write Gandalf, Yeah. Yeah. Hallmark. Yeah. If you haven't seen Schindler's List, Schindler's List is like a 3.5-hour movie. It's in black and white, except for one crucial scene, which makes the full movie, you understand why it's in black and white. Young Liam Neeson, directed by Steven Spielberg. I definitely need to watch that. I believe it is on Netflix. So if you would type in Schindler's List, it should be SCHINDLERS, Schindler's List. If you got, a morning or an afternoon to spare, I would 110% watch that. And the Holocaust. Yeah, the Holocaust is something that, I do believe the Holocaust should be taught in every school, in every school's history curriculum. As I said earlier, I've been to Auschwitz and Auschwitz I and Auschwitz-Birkenau. It's still something it's hard to describe. It's the most horrific thing I've ever seen. And I went into one of the gas chambers that is still up at Auschwitz I. Arguably the most horrifying thing I've ever seen in my life. And I just, I can't really even talk about it because it's just, you don't know what to say. But the only good thing about that Auschwitz experience was seeing where Rudolf Höss, the commandant of Auschwitz, seeing where he was hung and killed for his role in ordering the murders of over 1 million Jews at Auschwitz and other minorities. In a lighter note, are there any movies, war movies, that kind of bring a bit of a smile to your face? And there's one in particular involving Robert Downey Jr. and Jack Black that I can think of that makes me laugh every time I watch it. I want to see if you can guess what it is.
Well, there's quite a few different ones I can think of off the top of my head that are funny, but the one that you're thinking about, I was going to give the chat a chance to respond.
Yeah. So we got 1941. Hallmark, very very surreal. I should put. I have a shitload of pictures. I should put together a slideshow sometime and put on my channel here and explain. I'll just narrate the pictures to say what happened. It's actually I should do that. Because I'm going to do a virtual tour of the Manassas battlefields here this spring. Maybe while I'm waiting for it to warm up, I will do that. Read books on the topic. Yeah.
Yeah. There you go, Hallmark. Good job.
Yep. That is it.
When you said something, that's why I stayed quiet, because I knew what you were saying. But I'm like, we're waiting on the people in the chat, right?
Yeah.
So, okay.
The funniest war movie of all time is Tropic Thunder. That's like, honestly. Okay, so yeah, honestly, all right. So I need to do maybe this Saturday I'll be away. This weekend I'll be away. Maybe next Saturday I'll do maybe a back-to-back double live stream and do Saving Private Ryan And as everyone's sad, we'll be like, all right, get your hopes up. We're doing Tropic Thunder next. So we'll do a very serious one, and then we'll do Tropic Thunder, and try to get everybody's spirits back up after Saving Private Ryan.
Yes, Hallmark Stripes is very good. Yes, Master Moist, by the way, Schindler's List is on Netflix. I double checked it as we were going through the stream.
Good.
So yeah, it is on there as well for all those of you that have been listening to us. It is, as of right now, still on Netflix.
Yeah. And Morox, I live less than a mile and a half away from the Manassas National Battlefield Park. I am a member of the Manassas National Battlefield Trust. This organization that I'm a member of focuses on preserving that battlefield and cleaning it up, making sure it's litter-free, so that those that are still resting there, that are buried on the battlefield, will rest in peace, and that generations to come can walk those fields and learn about the struggles that happened there. It's something that's near and dear to my heart. I recently adopted a portion of the battlefield, an acre, in memory of my history teacher, who was killed Monday by a drunk driver. So, he has a portion of the battlefield being preserved in his memory. I'm going to stop talking about that before I get too emotional.
Well, and you messaged me when you were telling me about it, and I think it's fucking awesome. So it does say a lot about your character. I understand a lot, and I know he's looking out on you being, honored with what you've done. So way to go, Mr. Moist. I would have to say that Stripes is a fucking hilarious movie, by the way, Mr. Hallmark Jeremy. Very, very funny. Something that Master Moist probably needs to see.
Yeah, no, I do believe I think it was one of the movies I remember I sat down. I'm pretty sure I sat down in undergrad one day. I'm like, I need to watch Stripes. But then it was a Sunday. I do remember it was a Sunday, like my senior year. And I was just like, I'm going to watch Stripes. And then I forget what happened next. But it's like one of those things. Like I remember, I'm like, I'm going to watch Stripes because in my history, I was a history major, and people are like, you need to watch Stripes. And I'm like, okay, well, like I sat down and just like, I can't remember what I did.
You didn't watch it. That's what you did.
I didn't. I know I didn't watch it, but I forget what the. Like, I'm pretty sure my roommate was like, "Hey, do you want to go get Sheets?" And I'm just like, "Hell yeah, let's go!" And for those of you not in the East Coast that might not know what Sheets is, or Sheets or Wawa, Sheets is made to order food, and you just go and you type in whatever you want on the screen. It just magically comes to you, and it's fantastic. And if someone's like, "Hey, you want to go to Sheets?" you do not say no.
Well, it's okay. You got plenty of time to watch it. Some good Bill Murray and some John Candy, along with a star-studded cast of humor back when you could still laugh and cry and not be called a racist or a Nazi.
Oh, MASH! I love MASH. I just saw Hallmark put MASH in the chat, so yeah, MASH absolutely. But so guys, it's after 10 here. This is just gonna be a little short moist cast on a Wednesday. What do I even call this thing here?
I don't know.
The midweek moist cast. So just to give you guys a heads up, we're going to be wrapping this up here. The moist cast will not be occurring this weekend. I will be returning to Central Pennsylvania for some events, some personal events that I need to attend to. That I will be going to. I will not be in the best of mood after those events, but I am in a bit. Oh, goodness gracious. Wednesday Wetcast. That's good. That's very good. I like that. Hallmark Channel Jeremy, hell of a name there. I like that. Wednesday Wetcast. If I have to, yeah, that might be a new thing here. Just even if I go live for a half hour, do the Wetcast and give everybody their midweek moisture on the Wetcast. The Moist Moment, yeah. No, that Moist Moment's a great name for a really, really quick live stream. Like a live reaction video almost. But no, there's some I will be traveling out of town to attend some personal things that happened in the community. Yeah, I will copyright. Yeah, I will copyright that, and I will attribute that. I will put your name on the copyright as well, Mark. That is an awesome name for that. But yeah, so I'll be out of town this Sunday for the Moist Cast. Well, I'll be returning on Sunday evening, but I'm not going to be in really a good state to do the Moist Cast. So I know we are planning on postponing the Game of Thrones live stream season 3 review with Black Angus reviews that will be on my channel. I think Black Angus and I are going to push that back a week. It will still be on my channel, but instead of it being this Sunday, it will be next Sunday. So if you have yet to see season 3, I know Hallmark, you're watching along with us, and I saw you were on season 5. If you haven't gotten to see season 3 yet, you got an extra week. Hopefully it will come in that you can watch it.
Yeah, you're an asshole. I've been rushing through it just so I could have my homework done by Sunday. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no, but yeah, so we're going to do it a week later, but that doesn't mean that your homework's up. That means you should start to watch season 4 a little bit to rewatch. And Morox is up to date on Game of Thrones. If you'd like to rewatch it with us, we are doing that leading up to season 8. So it will be next Sunday on my channel, Black Angus Reviews. I know we're going to have Abu Nas joining us, super fan Adam Shawhan, of course, and still always up for a couple more guests. So Hallmark, Morox, anybody, get in touch with myself and Black Angus on Twitter at Brandon Moist, and I'm pretty sure Black Angus is at Black Angus Reviews, something like that. If you just type in Black Angus, you'll be able to find them.
I'll put the links in the chat here in a minute.
Yeah, that would be great. But as we are doing that, I would like to thank everybody in the chat for tuning in. Hallmark, Morox, right? Kitty, I saw you in there as well. Bonnie, thanks for stopping in. I hope we are able to make your Wednesdays wet, as Hallmark has wished us. We gave you a wet Wednesday, a moist moment, and we gave you some midweek moisture. And I know I won't be seeing you guys the rest of the week. Tomorrow I will be popping in on Bonnie Burgess's stream, talking about paranormal. Pending my hopefully my commute home from work will not be longer until hopefully I'll be home by 6. If I'm not home by 6, Bonnie, I saw you're still here. I will be popping in. Just shoot me the link, and I will be able to pop in. Because I know the DMV commute varies between 35 minutes and an hour and a half, depending on how bad people drive. So hopefully tomorrow I will see you guys on Bonnie Burgess' stream talking about paranormal activity, not necessarily the movies, but just in general, things like that. I hope you guys subscribe to each other, check each other's channel out. We have a great fan community here. Check out Adam Shawhan and his wiener dogs. Adam, anything you'd like to plug before we head out here?
No, I think you've got everything under control as always. It's an honor and always a pleasure to be here on even a Wednesday moist stream that's quick and not planned. As you know, I'm always here and available to help out when you need it. It's always good to see all you people jumping in and out. Check each other out. Have a good time. And we will see you on the next one.
Yeah, exactly. And I got one of my buddies who is also a channel manager of mine. recently posted up a video on the his thoughts on the state of 2019 EA Star Wars, which is about Star Wars gaming. Check that out. He put a lot of time into that. So I hope you guys, even if you're not into gaming, check it out. He's going to have part 2 coming out later this week. So yeah, check it out. Great video. You can see my moist ranking of Star Wars films on my channel. And hopefully until the next time, likely a stream maybe Monday or Tuesday night after the High Council or something. Probably more likely impromptu. But until then, until I talk to you tomorrow on Bonnie's channel, from Moist Visions Inc., I am the Moist, and I am moistening you out. Have a great week, people.